You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
Caribbean Kitchen Foods offer 7 unique blends of premium, low-sodium Jamaican seasoning that will add a burst of flavor to your dishes. Our authentic, all-natural Jamaican seasonings are a game changer when it comes to adding a burst of flavor to your dishes. Our products are kosher, all-natural, contains ingredients that are gluten-free and GMO-free. Our seasonings are handcrafted with the highest quality ingredients. We source our ingredients from the Caribbean to capture the authentic taste of the islands. Unleash your creativity in the kitchen and savor the taste of the Caribbean with our spice blends. Enjoy our variety of seasonings that are flavor-packed to deliver the best taste for your dishes. Get ready to create delicious meals that will excite your taste buds and leave your guests asking for more. Try our exclusive curry and jerk seasonings for an extraordinary cooking experience. Our blends are an excellent choice for chicken, meat, fish, and vegan dishes. Add a burst of flavor to your cooking with our top quality Jamaican seasonings. Grab one of our bundles and enjoy the taste of the islands.
Shalom family, viewer update. The Benaiah Israel channel is moving over to Rumble. Please join us over on our new platform. You can find a link in the description to our new Rumble channel called Hidden Hebrews. Hope to see you there, family. Shalom.
Peace and blessings, shalom, shalom, shalom. How's everybody doing this afternoon? Hopefully everyone's doing well. Tov or Tuv. That's good in Hebrew, in our native language. Hey, shalom, 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 family. Hopefully everybody's doing well. If you could please, family, just put a quick 1 in the chat if my audio sounds okay. Just want to make sure that I'm coming across loud and clear. I know sometimes I have some audio issues on this end, so I just want to make sure that we are all good across the board. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I see the ones in the chat. Most High bless you. Thank you, family. All right. Well, actually, so today, family, I think we'll have an interesting discussion. And actually, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go ahead and bring my esteemed guests on as well. Pastor Kelly, are you there, Pastor Kelly? Just want to make sure we got you on audio as well.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Okay, I got you.
All right, great.
Well, welcome, Pastor Kelly. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. Cannot complain. Just working. You know how we do. Always working on something.
Right. Yeah, I was supposed to be focusing on one video, then I got sidetracked, started working on another video. That's actually why you see Hidden Hebrews on the screen there. So most High willing, I'll re-release one of the Hidden Hebrews later on tonight or first thing in the morning. But aside from that, family, the purpose of this video, and I just want to say this right off the bat, this is a spoiler alert. This is a movie review of the book of Clarence. So if you had any, intentions of going to see it, you may want to press pause now and hop off because we're going to talk about the plot. We're going to talk about the climax and the story and, all that good stuff. Because I think that, there were some misconceptions, and I'll be the first to say that I was wrong. Pastor Kelly was right. And, I kind of spoke before I actually saw the movie, and I think that was a big mistake. That was a mistake. I'll say that to you right off the rip. That was a mistake. I kind of, I spoke against the movie, and I'll tell you why as we go along here, family. But, you definitely probably should at least have somebody go and watch it for you before you comment the movie, right? So I'll put it to you that way. And Pastor Kelly, I guess, before we start talking about the movie, let's talk about, if you don't mind, some of our preconceived notions going into the film, because I know for me, one of the things I did, so I dropped the trailer. I did a trailer review because I was excited because yes, there were colored folks, people of color in the movie. They made up all the primary characters. And this looked to be like that film that was going to be biblically accurate or somewhat accurate when it comes to the portrayal of the people of the book. So I was happy. And then I dropped the trailer. And then, of course, as we were kind of reviewing the trailer, and some folks was pointing out, the song of the trailer, because there's a song by Lil Wayne that's played throughout the trailer. And they was like, man, what dude's saying is blasphemous. And yeah, when you look at those lyrics, they are straight up blasphemous. And so looking at that, I was like, you know what, man, I mean, if they're gonna be playing this stuff in the film, man, I'm not gonna watch it. And I said as much on the on the review. Little did I know, and I'll just tell you this right up front, that section of the song, like those lyrics, are not in the movie. That was just in the trailer. That's one. So when folks like me was putting the cart before the horse, and I was showing the lyrics and saying, man, this is garbage. And actually these lyrics are garbage because it talks about, this guy that, he's all over the place as far as religion. He's in Buddha, he's in all this other stuff. And he's saying, basically he's trying to portray himself as God. And this ties actually, after you see the movie, you understand what these lyrics and who this represents. This actually represents Clarence at the very beginning of the movie, because he was he didn't believe in God, right? He didn't believe in God. He didn't believe in the Messiah. He was all about knowledge, right? And so he would get into any and everything to make some money. And so these are his lyrics. But at the end of the movie, he's a believer of the Messiah and he's a believer of God. And so, it's about his journey from here to being a believer. So that's one thing. Because, Pastor Kelly, so what were your thoughts going into the film? Like what were your, did you have any preconceived notions going into the film?
Well, quite honestly, I really didn't. I just kind of wanted to just wait, and once the movie was released, then I'll watch it, because the same people, the same writer, I can't remember the guy's name, who wrote this movie and produced it. You know, he was the one that did the movie starring what's his name, Jonathan Majors, from the movie
Right.
The Harder They Fall, that's on Netflix.
Mm.
And when I saw that, it was actually much better than what I thought. The production and everything was really good. And so I understood, uh, far as Jay-Z, I've actually done videos on him years ago about his lyrics and even why he chose his name, Jehovah, and all that stuff. But for me, it was like, kind of from the angle of, well, I mean, we've seen a movie that looks, where all the main characters, like you pointed out, all the key figures rather, look like you and I. And I was just really curious of, okay, what's in it, so of course I was, I was going to watch it no matter what, but I was still kind of like in that, from a perspective of, uh in the trailer you never saw an image of, or at least the face of the one that was playing Christ, and you didn't even see that in the advertisement, as far as like the posters or anything like that. They made sure you didn't see that prior to the release of the movie. So those are some of the things I was kind of curious about, but I had made it a point that I was just going to wait until I see the movie. Then I was going to talk about it. And as you laid out, everything that's in that song is what he went through in the movie. And I'm not going to, get ahead of you, because we can use the song to actually pinpoint different things within the movie about this character, And so it just, with the comment that you placed on here, with the person saying those lyrics are straight blasphemous. And this is where, and just this is not to come against any of you guys, but this is where we have to understand the context of where those lyrics are from. It's not about Christ. It's those lyrics is describing the character and giving you an overview of the main character that, as Benaya pointed out, he is a hustler, down on his luck, so to speak. Don't believe he's all about knowledge, just like the day and time we live in today. And now he's trying to find a hustle, and he figured it out, just like you see a lot of people in church. You know what I mean? You see crooked pastors say, hey, you know what? I'm going to use, see if I could be part of that, because I see the influence and people will give, so that way I can be placed into a certain position to help pay off my debt. And so when we start saying blasphemous, understand what blasphemous is. The word na'at or na'at, right? That word means profane, right? That's what it simply means. It means profane. And what we just shared here, how is the movie blasphemous? Who is it profaning? Because those lyrics is not describing the Messiah, the Christ of the movie. So this is why we have to be careful when we say it's blasphemous. It's not blasphemous towards our Hamashiach. It's not even blasphemous towards the main character, because this is giving you all the information about who this character is. I yield, cuz.
No, I was just going to land back on what you said, but because to your point, I'll say this: like, those lyrics are bad. Yes, they are. But guess what? Those lyrics are not in the movie.
Absolutely.
I'll say that again. Those lyrics are not in the movie, unless I was eating some popcorn or sipping on a big Slurpee and I missed it, because I was looking for it now. I was looking for it. But those lyrics are not in the movie. The only place that you see it is in the trailer.
Yep.
So just to put that out there, just for those who joined late, and because I said it earlier on in the chat when we just had a smaller audience. But yeah, family. So those lyrics, like these lyrics are definitely horrible lyrics. but they're not in the movie.
They're not in the movie. Yep.
They're not in the
Yep.
movie. So when you talk about these lyrics, and like we were saying, before, that is, you can, after seeing the movie, you actually see that those lyrics are a portrayal of the character early on in the movie, right? And actually, if you look it on the screen, like the very first part of the movie opens up with this chariot race, right?
Yep.
And this is the main character, Clarence, and he's racing against Mary. I believe was it Mary Magdalene, a pastor? I think?
Yep. That's Mary Magdalene. Yep.
Yep. And they were racing, around the city. And of course, as they're racing, there are people that's, kind of like in Star Wars, right? Whenever you're racing for money, sometimes the opposition has their helpers to try to trip you up as you go along. And sure enough, that's what happens throughout, in the opening scene. He's racing, he's trying to get some money. Like Pastor Kelly, he's trying to do his hustle. But as he's racing, and then the friends of Mary Magdalene come out and jack him up. Him and his buddy. It's kind of funny when you see it. And that's another thing, family. It is it's a satire, right? It's kind of they're making jokes, making fun of certain people. They even got they poke fun at white Jesus in here.
We'll get to that too. We'll get to that. And to your point, I mean, you have to see the movie, family. You do yourself a great disservice in not seeing it and forming opinions. So, like you said early on, the movie, as you said, it's a satire, and we've seen other movies that was satire based upon the scriptures, and all the things that were in those movies, it had all kinds of overtones of sexual, homosexuality and all. It was just crazy. Of the main characters, not these characters that are hustlers, but the main characters like of Christ, and even in some of those satire movies by Caucasians, they depicted Christ having a relationship with Mary Magdalene. You know what I mean? It was all kinds of things that you saw that was totally contrary and truly blasphemous. That when you look at this, it's totally the opposite.
Right. And again, if you don't mind, because I'm gonna say this throughout our discussion, these lyrics are not in the movie.
That's right.
I just want to put that out there, because I when I did the previous kind of the review of the trailer, I too got sucked into thinking that, man, this represents the movie, when like I said, unless I was eating popcorn and surfing on a big Slurpee and I missed it, these lyrics are not in the movie. And I went there with the intention, how you go into something and you kind of cross your arms like, yo, he they better not say this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I went in listen, looking for it, and I didn't see it, family. I didn't see it. So I didn't hear it. I didn't see it, and I didn't hear it. And actually they didn't need to, because of the way that the movie was set up. So the way that the movie was set up, family, and we just kind of talk. I guess we can start off talking, Pastor Kelly, as far as like, we'll give like an overview. I think we already said that, but for the benefit of those that are just joining, the whole synopsis of the film is, so Clarence is, like Pastor Kelly mentioned in one of his lives, it's like he's a hustler. Like he doesn't believe in the Most High. He doesn't believe in God. He says as much throughout the beginning of the film, and so he relies on knowledge. He relies on knowledge alone to find a way up, right? To make a way and hustle and all that stuff. And so when it starts off with the horse race, he's racing with somebody else's horses, right? With somebody else's chariot, and he's trying to make some money. And of course, he loses, so he loses that person's horses and in the chariot. And so he, of course, it's kind of like he borrowed from a loan shark. And so now the loan shark has given him till, what is it, Pastor
30
Kelly,
days.
Is it 30 days?
Yeah, he gave him 30 days.
Yep. He had 30 days to either, give him his money, or he was going to put him to death. Right. So like that was the whole drive behind the movie. So he's trying to make a hustle, trying to find things to make money. so that he could pay off this debt, right? And so of course he goes and visits his mom. He visits his love interest in the movie, all black, by the way. all I'd say semi-biblically accurate as far as like the portrayal of Jerusalem and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. That was one of the things I try to relay in some of the videos that I put out when portraying Jerusalem. Like, you have to picture in your mind, family, Jerusalem was a black city. Like, straight up, it was a black city. And if you were to get into a time machine, go back into Jerusalem, it would almost look like you was in Brooklyn. Like, if you was to post up in Brooklyn on the black section, or in Harlem on the black section, that's what it would look like. Of course, but with folks dressing nice, looking nice, right? Especially when they were walking in their blessing, looking like some blessed folks. So this is what I think this movie did an excellent portrayal, Pastor, because that's one of the things that I was impressed with, was the cinematography, like the scenes and the clothing. Like, what did you think?
And see that, and you remember I called you immediately, right before and after, right? And you hit it right on the nail. I mean, I couldn't really, express it any better than what you pointed out. I mean, the cinematography, the music, everything was well put. Even the clothing, the cast, everything was done very strategically. And just real quick, I see someone that had made a post, and I want to say this to others that have the concern. They said, my concern is the mixed messages viewed by the spiritually illiterate. Does it add to the confusion? And, we have to be careful when we say that we're concerned about the spiritually illiterate, because we can say that about anything. Is it going to add, or is it going to take away from it? And to answer that question bluntly, it doesn't. If anything, like I had someone on my channel when I was talking about the movie, they said they had tears. It brought them to tears, and these are young people, and people have posted in the chat as well. So I just want to just give that clarity, is that let's just, go take a look at the movie, take it from the angle of use it as a teachable moment. If we take the approach of, is it going to add to confusion, or we're concerned about the young people are doing whatever they do, exploring things no matter what. And if you're referring to those that may be young in spirit, in terms of their knowledge of the word, it does not take away. It does not take away. If anything, it actually gives you those things that you asked questions about when you was in the church Christianity. I yield, cuz.
Yeah, I mean, but the whole plot of the movie, the lesson of the movie, is to believe in the Most High.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a movie. Like, so it is a comedy. And forgive me, family. Only reason why I'm posting your one of the reasons why I'm posting your questions, and you actually have some great questions. I just want to make sure I don't forget it. So that's part of the reason why I'm grabbing your post, because you have such great questions. So I just want to make sure I don't forget to answer your questions. And is it a comedy? Yes, it's a comedy. It's one of those comedies that's tied. It's tied into history, like the historical narrative. But to Pastor Kelly's point, like, the whole purpose of the movie is to teach you a lesson to believe in the Most High, and to believe in his son Yahusha. I know we call him, folks call him different names. We do have followers on this channel that don't believe in Yahusha. I'm sorry, but I do. And it's kind of funny, because I think that's probably one of those lessons that I've been kicking down the road that I probably really need to address, because I mean, just going through all these history books, I can actually see why certain people living in certain places, why they believe what they believe. Like, usually the folks that have a history of they've left Jerusalem, or they left our promised land before the Messiah, those are usually the folks that don't believe in Yahusha. Straight up. Like, I've seen it time and time again. But anyway, that's a discussion for another topic for another day. But yes, family, this movie, like, the whole purpose of the movie, he starts off by being a non-believer, doesn't believe in God, doesn't believe in anything but knowledge. And then he goes through the hardships of the movie. and then there's a revelation or an event that occurs that we will talk about here in a little bit, where he believes in it. Like, first of all, because he has a buddy that rolls with him throughout the whole movie, and his buddy actually sees Yahusha, or the Messiah, I'll say the Messiah, up hand, and he sees the Messiah work a miracle, and he sees it up front. And that's why I say, like, he sees the Messiah working miracles. And this is when it's kind of funny, Pastor Kelly, because you know how we used to have people that didn't believe in Yahusha. And it's funny because, when I would go through these history books, like, to a people that have not been, have not gone into slavery, to the four corners of the earth, to a people that had not lost their identity. Like, there are some Israelites that were in, like, Spain and some of these other places that had not lost the knowledge of who they were, but they were there in 70 AD. And in these books, Pastor Kelly, they did not question whether Yahusha was real or not. They knew he was.
Yeah.
They knew the Messiah was real. Like, and that's why I kind of chuckle when I see this discussion. Kind of, anyway, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole, but come up nowadays. It's just that, because of who we are and what we've been through, that's really the only reason why why you see these folks come up with these things about not believing in the Messiah. But I know, I'm sorry, fam, I'm kind of going all over the place. But the point that I just want to come back to is that this movie is about the whole plot of the movie is believing in Yahusha. The guy doesn't believe in Yahusha at first, or, he doesn't believe in the Most High at first, right? Or Yah at first, goes through some trials and tribulations. His partner that he rolls with, he sees Yahusha up close. He sees the Messiah heal, or save, deliver, and heal somebody. So then he goes back and tells Clarence, and he's like, "Man, he's real, right?" And Clarence doesn't believe. He's like, "Man, you crazy, you tripping." And then Clarence has
because even before that, remember, they saw the disciples in them entering into the city.
Oh man, that was dope.
Yeah, so right
that
after
was dope.
right after they went through that whole situation, and remember, before they were going to meet up with the guy, they saw the Messiah, and first he saw the disciples. They was looking, and the way they set it up, family, it was so on point. They, how they entered it. It kind of made me remind me of X. Remember how the cop scene when the white cop was like, "Hey, it's not good for one person to have that much power." You know what I mean? The way that they entered into this city, it was so powerful, and how everyone respected them. And then when the Messiah came in, they didn't show his face. They showed his head covered, so, it resonated with them. And when he, went through his process with the loan shark, so to speak, and things just didn't work out the way he thought it was going to work out. That's when he came up with a thing like, you know what? He thought about it. It's like, you know what? I want to be a 13th disciple. You know what I mean? So go ahead, because I don't want to get ahead of you, but just I just want the people to understand that the strength, the way that they entered into the city, man, it was so powerful. I was like, man, I wanted to tip everything over. Like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. About time we're not seeing, wimpy looking people all frailed up and everything. Seeing them. We seeing the authority. You know what I mean? We seeing the power. We seeing the confidence. There you go, guys.
Yeah, and they weren't speaking soft and speaking in poetry like, "Oh, for how out thou Peter. Well, Peter, whence has thou came?" You know what I'm saying? Like Pastor Kelly. No, they were speaking in authority. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it was powerful when they made the scene, and actually when the apostles, came on the scene. I believe it was kind of like after, like I said, the Clarence, who's the main character. He's searching at this point in time in the movie. He's still an unbeliever, and he's searching. And then he see these powerful men, these 12 disciples. And I actually had to count them. It's like, man, because when they rolled up, because I had to count. It's like, them 12 disciples, I had to count.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
I was like, oh yeah, they did 12, And yeah, man, and it's like they rolled in, and then of course Clarence sees them, and so he gets this idea, right? That like, yeah, I need to be like that. I need to, because he said they're powerful and they're protected. That's who I need to be. And so, his brother is was it the Apostle Thomas? Is that
Yeah,
right?
and that's the funny part of it, right? Because
Yep.
you had Clarence and his brother Thomas, so kind of like
Oh
a
yeah.
spinoff of Clarence Thomas.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Right.
So I
Yep.
thought that was very crafty as well. And one additional nugget to add is, remember after he lost the race, the little kids and all the that was part of that group, that hustle group. They took his cloak and everything.
Yep.
So they left him like basically with nothing. And so there was a beggar that was on the side of the road that he took the cloak from, that we'll talk about a little later. Because I
Right.
also see someone asking the question about what was the purpose of Cumberbatch, Botch or whatever, I think that's his name, being in the movie. He didn't really understand that part. And we could kind of say he liked the movie, but he just didn't understand that part. And we could talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. Who was Cumberbatch? I forgot that one.
The guy that played, remember the white Messiah,
Yeah.
the bum.
Right.
All through the movie, he was just, you saw him in and out of the movie as the bum.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
then
That was
yeah.
they put that in their family for comedy. You could tell.
Yeah,
They
but
put
it was good though, because it played on where we are today.
Yeah.
Some of our brothers and sisters, no matter what, they'll tell you they know that Christ is, I'll just use for the sake of conversation, discussion, black.
Right.
They know the disciples and all of them, Israel black, but they still purposely teach a white Messiah in church. Even knowing this history, I've had bishops tell me they have multiple churches over underneath their authority, their tutelage, stating that they know we the people of the book, but they still push the agenda of the church.
Right.
And that's why I kind of went with that character. It was like, oh, okay, now I see Caesar Borgia. Everybody, they love that Caesar Borgia. And when they show, because we getting ahead of it. But did you react before you got to the end part? Did you react like I did? Like, oh, don't tell me this. Are they going to push this guy right here now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they had him up on. Eventually, family. They had him up on the stake. But it's like to Pastor Kelly's point. If you're not familiar with the character, if you guys watch other movies, I'm a big ex Marvel fan. Even watch some X-Men stuff. So the Roman general, or he plays Xavier in X-Men. This was like a star-studded movie.
All through it, yeah.
Yeah. And then the gentleman that we're talking about that ends up playing White Jesus, he plays Doctor Strange in Marvel, right? Yeah. And I kept looking at it, I was like, man, because he's all like Pastor Kelly said, he's a bum. He's black with soot and all this other stuff, and I kept looking at his eyes like, man, I've seen that guy before. So I know that actor. And then there's one point in the movie where he gets a little cash, right? And this is after the Messiah blesses him, right? The Messiah heals him, and then he blesses him with, how did he bless him? Cause
he touched his hands, and then money started coming out of his hands.
Right.
And so no matter what, he'll open his hand and money just come out. So he went to this place, like this parlor, to get himself like a makeover.
Yep.
And so while he's in the parlor, when he opened his hand, all his cash come out, the coins come out as he keep opening his hands. So what they did was they cleaned them up and everything. And what happened? I mean, all of a sudden, as soon as they cleaned him up, they were like, he looked like Jesus.
Yeah. Well, you got to tee it up, because so they're kind of watching him. He's laying down on the table, and they're scrubbing, right? And finally, like to Pastor Kelly's point, they get him all cleaned up, and they start revealing him to the viewers, where he's the camera's like walking down the hallway, and you're kind of supposed to be him, right? You're kind of looking through his eyes, and as people notice him and they're turning around like, they're shocked, they're dropping bowls.
Even when he started walking through the city.
Yep. And they're shocked, and then of course he's throwing his hair all over the place, right? And then he gets out, and even like Pastor Kelly said, even when he starts walking in the city, folks are looking at him, and they're just amazed, because it's a city of black folks. I got to stress that It's a city of black folks. So anyway, but that was, you know, that was one of those things of comedy that was in the movie, because yes, it is a comedy, family. It is a comedy. I just want to address Sister Lakeisha Williams comment, because you know I totally agree that, you know, definitely pray for, you know, any, you know, any and everything, right? And you know, I guess I know that there's some folks that are super cautious with all movies, like they don't see no movies, right? You know what I mean? Like they're not seeing any movie that's not you know, Reclaiming the Thrones or Hebrews and Negroes. You know what I mean? But there are some folks that will go out and see other movies, you know, whether it be Marvel, X-Men, I don't know, name some movies, Avatar, you know, for those folks that do still go out to the movies, because you know, that still go out to the movies, you know, I would say, you know, my 2 cents would be, you know, definitely pray about it. If you're cautious about, you know, revealing it to your family, your little ones that might get tripped out, I would say go and watch it yourself and make up your mind yourself, because like I talked about at the beginning of this review, is like I had some preconceived notions based off of what people said and based off of like some lyrics of a song that wasn't even in the movie. I got to stress that, family. Like the lyrics that you see that folks like, man, this is straight blasphemous. That's not in the movie. It's not. So like I always caveat it, unless I was eating popcorn or sipping on a Slurpee when it went through, I didn't see it. So anyway,
And to your point, cuz, and to another person in the chat,
mhm.
the white Jesus was one of many messiahs that was revealed, and we'll get to that in a second, especially that closing scene. But the Messiah, right, the true Messiah, no, he was not a Caucasian. He was a dark melanated Negro like us, you know. So I want to be clear. So that, but the way that they did it, it kind of played on that thing where many of us would be more starstruck, so to speak, over a Caucasian Christ. You know, I remember there was a video that went viral with a sister, right? Saw someone, I think, I can't remember where she was. She was traveling somewhere and she saw in her mind, an attractive Caucasian man with long hair, blue eyes and the beard and everything. And she said to him, "You look like Jesus." You know what I mean? So that was, as Benaiah pointed out, remember, this is a lot of satire in it, and it played on that thing where so many of us will not accept a Negro Messiah, no matter what. You know, kind of like too, like a lot of this truth we're giving, a lot of us would not accept it from each one of us. So on my channel, if you notice, I do a lot of clips of other nations saying we're the people of the book, and those videos tend to do very well.
Right.
So the movie kind of plays on that. So I turn it over to you, guys.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about the Messiah, so let's talk about it. So it's like, so in the movie, when Clarence sees the 12 apostles, like we were saying, like when they introduce them, it's almost like a powerful scene. Like, man, these men, these are some men, these some dudes, right? And when they come into the scene and Clarence sees them, and Clarence is like, man, I want to be like those guys. You know, again, at this point in the movie, Clarence is not a believer. He doesn't believe in God. And all he's about is the hustle, because he's just trying to make money back to the loan shark so he doesn't get killed in 30 days. So he sees the apostles. He sees that his brother is one of the apostles. His brother is Thomas, right? And so what he does is that, you know, he gets this idea, and then he goes and sees, you know, where the apostles were assembling, like this house. And so he goes in and he kind of gives his spiel. He's like, yeah, you know, I want to be an apostle. And of course, you know, they all bust out laughing and make fun of him. And then there's this whole dynamic between Thomas and Clarence. And, you know, Thomas is like, you know, good, you know, you coming in here doing all this stuff, clean up your life, you'll never be good, and all this other stuff. And then Clarence is like, you know, well, you left me and mama and stuff like that. I mean, it's like this powerful dynamic that plays out between the two. But what Clarence does at this point, Clarence then wants to see the Messiah. He's like, okay, well, if y'all won't let me in, well, let me talk to Messiah. Where is he? When is he coming back? And it was like, it don't work like that. Right. So, so throughout through the early part of the film, Clarence doesn't meet the Messiah, nor his group. But eventually what happens, and feel free to jump in here, because if I skip,
and you know what, because one point I want to add, just what you're going to say, I was going to wait for a break point, is I like the fact that they didn't allow the disciples to just let them in.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just thought I'd add that, you know how it goes, like, for some reason, we are always portrayed as letting any and everyone come among us. So that was the other thing, including whether they didn't indicate that was Thomas' brother.
Right. And Judas Iscariot, he was like, he kind of gave him a challenge. He was like, well, I mean, if let's say if you were to go and free some captives, then maybe, we might consider, or whatever he said. So basically he gave a challenge to Clarence to free some slaves. And so then at that point, that's when Clarence goes and tries to free some slaves. And, again, it's a comedy slash, I can say that the cinematography was excellent. This top, to me, family, it was top notch. It was a top notch production as far as like the scenery, the housing, the wardrobe, like all that stuff was great. Even the soundtrack in the movie, was great, because like I said, I was listening, fam. I was listening to see if that song popped up, but it, as far as I could tell, they didn't run with it, or they didn't play it in there. But so he goes and he tries to free some captives, and he ends up eventually freeing one, because what you discover is that Clarence can fight, because they say Clarence from the streets, right? So Clarence got some skills, and he actually at least won the freedom of one of the people that was enslaved. And so he goes back and still tries to get in. They still don't let him in. And this is when he gets that idea. He was like, well, you know what? I can be the Messiah. I can be a Messiah. I can be, I can have them, because he was looking at it as like a hustle. He's like, man, he's like, oh, he called it tricks. He's like, we can do those magic tricks too. Kind of like remember the Pharaoh, the Pharaoh in Moses, and the Pharaoh had his magicians come in and try to do the same thing that Moshe did. That's the exact same thing, family. The exact same thing. Because he even goes to see the mother of the Messiah, trying to talk. He was like, and he goes there to try to understand, like, what's his angle, like what is his motivation for doing what he's doing, because still in Clarence's mind, he's thinking that it's a hustle. So he's trying to figure out, like, how is he doing this magic trick? So he went to his home, and he's talking to the Messiah's family. It's like, so how is he doing what he's doing, and why is he doing what he's doing? And that's a whole nother comedy interaction between him and the family. Did you pull anything out of that interaction, family, or out of that, cuz?
Yeah, it was like, and even then, to your point, he began to take the, like, the televangelist route. You know what I mean? Faking miracles and everything. And, I remember he initially went to John the Baptist first, and I'll let you elaborate on that. But remember when he decided to go to John the Baptist first. And, how he was handled there, and John the Baptist wasn't buying it. I turn it over to you.
No, you're totally. I forgot about that, because John the Baptist is in there, and it's a whole funny interaction between John the Baptist, because how, like, I see my brother Sophia let Joseph. It's like the movie is not biblical. No, it is not biblical. It is a comedy satire movie. So no, it's not a biblical movie, right? It's not it's a fictional movie. Right. So again, for those people who are into watching fictional comedy movies, then you might want to check out the movie. But if you're not into watching any fictional comedy movies, or if you're not into watching anything on TV that's not biblical, listening to any music that's not biblical, watching any movies that's not biblical, then this goes right in that bucket of all those other things that you don't watch.
And real quick too, to that point. Mm-hmm. Actually, from what I understand, and the writer was inspired by Simon the sorcerer in Acts chapter 8. Because when you read Acts chapter 8, and I'll drop the verses there, Simon the sorcerer, he was a hustler, basically, in a nutshell. In the end, he found Christ. Because it says, I'll just read a couple of verses. It says, but there was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city he used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one, to whom they all gave heed, for the least up to the greatest, saying, this man is the great power of God. To him they had regard, because that of long time he had betwixt them with sorcery. And it says, but when they believed Philip preaching the things concerning the kingdom of God and the name of Jesus Christ, they were baptized, both men and women. And they show that in the end, he turned his life around. So to your point, we could say that it's fictional, but when you look at the storyline, you see someone like we see all the time. We could put people inside that character who decided to use the reputation of the Most High, his Son, and the Holy Spirit used that reputation for their own selfish gains. And here's the kicker. The Messiah prophesied about that happening during the Great Tribulation, the time we live in, and also the the falling of Jerusalem, which was called the time of sorrow. So you could see it from the angle of, all right, if we want to go off of this character, you can clearly see a number of examples of this character inside the scriptures.
Yep, definitely.
And not even just in the scriptures, because in our everyday walk of life, growing up in the church, you saw Clarence all the time. He just went under different names, from the pulpit all the way down to the ushers.
Yep. And I'll say this to my brother or sister, Yafaya, exactly where he says, exactly, then why are we focusing on it? And then we could use our time to build up Yisrael. And again, like I said, it goes back to, how can I put this? It goes back to, your stance on movies and videos. If you're the kind of person where you don't watch anything on TV that's not biblical, and anything in the movies that's not biblical, if you don't listen to anything that's not biblical, then this, like I said, this goes into that do not watch bucket, right? This goes into that do not watch bucket, right? But if you're not of that belief or stance, right, these are the people that we're talking to, right? These are the folks that we're talking to.
And so can I jump in there too as well?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say this too, because I hear that a lot when people hear that, if we're talking or discussing a subject that some may not agree. Like, this is a distraction. I hear that a lot. And we have to use wisdom with that. We're using this as a teachable moment, just like any situation, in every situation. We could say that about the news. We could say that about anything. Is it, why are we focused on X, Y, Z? We understand we go to work. Okay, why you go to work? Can we do something else outside of work? We just have to, we definitely understand your concerns, but at the same time, we have to be careful of, like the scripture talks about, being so heavenly minded, you know what I mean? Whereas though we're no good to anyone. We should be able to, like Paul said, I was all things to all people. Being out here in that street, evangelizing, I was a straight evangelist, being out in that street, beating the pavement. And I've had conversations with all walks of life. And one of the most dangerous things that you can ever do is only have one view, a tunnel vision, and not be able to have conversations and dialogue. Because I've seen churches get shut down, pastors walk away because they did not understand the stuff that was coming to their plate. They lost ministers because they didn't properly groom them when they sent them out. So the disciples had to deal with all of this. So we're just using this as a teachable moment, family, and just and Benay, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but we're just telling you don't judge the book by the cover. You know what I mean? At least if if you don't watch movies, that's fine. But at the same time, don't make it as don't project it in a way that you may project it in a way that others are in sin if they choose to go see the movie. Like Paul had to dress like, hey, don't make someone feel bad if they don't honor the feast day like how you honor the feast day. You decide that you're gonna you eat meats while somebody decide to say that they don't want to eat meat, but they're still honoring the feast day. Let's be careful how we can throw stumbling blocks among each other. So I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate too, family. The whole plot of the movie, the lesson learned in the movie, is to trust in Yahuwah, like to trust in the Heavenly Father. Like that's the lesson that's taught and learned at the very end of the movie. Again, like I said, for those who may have joined late, the movie is about an atheist that doesn't believe in the Most High, and then he goes through his trials and tribulations. His entourage ends up meeting the Messiah. Actually, at the very end of the movie, I'm going to go ahead and spoil it to you. So if you hadn't paid your money to buy your tickets, I'm sorry. But at the end of the movie, he gets healed by Yahushua, by the Messiah. How about that? He gets healed by the Messiah because he makes a sacrifice for his friends. And that's why he ends up getting crucified, because they actually, the Roman commander, I'm not sure if he's a commander or what, but the Roman general, whoever he was, he wanted Clarence to give him the Messiah, give him up, kind of like Judas did. He was trying to offer him 30 pieces of silver. And he was like, I can't do that. He's like, I'd rather die than do that. And he's like, oh, okay, well, you're going to get crucified. So he went through the whole crucifixion. And as he was getting crucified and he was carrying his cross, and they showed him carrying his cross and getting whipped, and his friends tried to, come and they was trying to help him. And he was like, no, I got it. He's like, no, you guys stay. And folks was getting ready to fight on his behalf. And he was like, no, don't do that. He's like, let me go through this. Let me take this one for the team. And so then he goes through that painful process of getting crucified. And then he actually, dies on the cross. And just like in the scriptures where Yahushua raises a man up from the dead, so he then raises him up from the dead, heals him. And then he literally says, like, because you have believed, because you have, then believed on me, and and that's why he had given him life. And like I said, family, it was a powerful message. And to kind of walk away, going into the movie, hearing what I was hearing, and with the preconceived notion that I had, I felt, I don't know if I felt some kind of way about it. I was like, man, this movie ain't nothing from what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we was talking about John the Baptist. So there was a part in the movie, like we were saying, was just trying to walk the movie forward, family. So at the beginning of the movie, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God or believe in the Most High. He has like this race, this chariot race. He loses the chariot race, which is, he was racing with somebody else's horse and chariot. He loses it. He actually borrowed it from a loan shark. Loan shark gave him like 30 days to pay him back. So the whole movie, he was trying to make that money back. And then, so he gets this idea from, after he saw the apostles, he said, hey, I want to be the 13th apostle. It was like, get out of here. You're not going to be the 13th apostle. And so then he was like, okay, well, I'm going to run the same game that you guys run. I'm going to say, because he didn't believe that they were operating, through miracles. He thought that they were, a scam artist just like he was. So he thought that, in his mind, he thought that they were using magic. So he got his buddies together. He was like, you know what? We're going to pretend like you dead. I'm going to come up and heal you. And then you're going to get up. And then we're going to work it that way. And so he did. He pulled that off. He had a couple of scenes of him pulling that off in different parts of Jerusalem. I guess he was in Jerusalem. And then, as he's doing that, he's raking in all this money, right? He's raking in all this money. And then what he does is that he then takes his money and instead of going to pay off his debt, he goes back to the place that he was trying to free the captives, because remember, I told you Judas Iscariot kind of gave him this challenge to be accepted into the 12. He was like, well, you go and see if you can free some captives, go down there, free the captives. We might consider you. But when he goes down there, he could only free one of the many captives that was down there. So at this point in the movie, when he was collecting all this loot from swindling people, instead of going to pay off the loan shark, he then he gets a change of heart, so to speak, and then he goes and pays off the debt of all the slaves. And they were telling him, it's like, hey, this gonna mean this is gonna mean that you're gonna be dead. This is gonna mean like this is it for you, right? But he was willing to make the sacrifice. So that was the sacrifice he made. And like this is the part in the movie where you can see that he's slowly making that transition from being a non-believer to a believer. But however, at this point in the movie, he's not quite a believer just yet.
Yeah.
And Pastor Kelly, you have to keep me on track, because I believe that at some point one of his friends that's going with him, he comes across the Messiah. And actually, I think Mary Magdalene, she was getting ready to be stoned. So he goes in and tries to protect her from being stoned. So he's getting stoned along with Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
And they're throwing the rocks and stones at him. And I think you actually see this in the trailer at some point. But they're throwing rocks at him. And then this is when the Messiah rolls up. And he pulls some Matrix stuff. Like he holds out his hand and the stones just freeze up in midair. And then they just drops. And then and he kind of makes a powerful scene. I think up to this point he was veiled. You didn't really get to see his face up until this point, and then he pulls off the veil, and then you actually see that it's a brother man. Right? It's a brother man. And then he heals them. And of course, he talks about he who was without sin cast the first stone. And of course they end up leaving. And again, that, like I said, you see like bits and pieces of the Bible, interwoven in that. But this movie is from the perspective of outside of the characters in the Bible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's following along the narrative of the Bible, but it's following along
from a different perspective, like
yes,
Clarence, focusing on Clarence, even though
Yes.
it's still showing some of the biblical events to let you know it's still during that time. Like you
Yes.
pointed out with the Mary Magdalene, or what was, I think that was her character, but they show how she was being, like you said, being stoned. And what was his name? Was it Elijah or whatever his name was?
Yeah, Elijah. I think it was Elijah.
That was Elijah. He goes to protect her. And then as he's protecting her, they all began to stone them together collectively. Then suddenly, the Messiah pops up and he stops all of that. You know what I mean? And so he got to experience, and remember even how they started responding, kind of looking over at Clarence like, man, you sure you want to do this? You know what I mean? But when he gave, but the key, like you pointed out, he came back to Clarence and told him that he actually saw what the Messiah had done. You know what I mean? And was letting him know that he is real. His authority and everything, it's real. It's not a show.
Right.
And so that was the thing that Clarence he was still on the fence with. And the Key family just want to reiterate that he was all about knowledge. And it kind of remind me of what Paul talks about in Romans chapter 1, being, what does he say? Becoming so wise, they became fools.
Right.
So it's like he was so puffed up that he sound foolish, and he was making decisions that was like very foolish. So he began to come up with gimmicks versus what Christ was giving actual miracles. He was giving gimmicks. He didn't heal nobody. Everything was just like a prompt. You know what I mean? Even when he called himself raising his own friend from the dead.
Right. Yep. And then as you get closer to towards the end of the movie, you actually have Passover. So there's
Yes.
What the Christian church calls the Last Supper, but that was another part where they inserted comedy, of course, where it's like the part where Judas is identified. It's like, well, he who dips his hand in this bowl or something like that, just kind of paraphrase.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, he is who will betray me. And then the way that they made him dip his hand into the bowl, knowing that when he did it, that he was going to be identified. Yeah, that was funny. It was almost like he couldn't control himself. He was trying to prevent his hand from moving, and his hand was moving on his own. He was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Don't do that." And he dipped it in the bowl, and then you would see like the others in the room, and they all looking at him like, "So you that dude? You know, you're the one that's going to portray the Messiah."
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that was a nice, a nice way that they portrayed that.
And the other thing I like what they did too is still tying into where you are now is when Pilate put out a declaration to arrest all the messiahs, everyone that's saying that they're Messiah in the area. And
right.
Why is that important? Because remember, Christ said that there would be false messiahs, even during the time of Jerusalem being sacked or Israel being sacked. So, so during that time, they put that declaration out there, and then remember that's when they, in a nutshell, said what Christ was doing that having that dinner with his disciples. Clarence, when you showed the dance scene, that was all part of him about to be betrayed himself. So he's at a place he kind of partying, doing totally the opposite, and then he gets set up by a kiss with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so he comes outside. He comes outside. Now his brother want to get him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so in a nutshell, now the Romans come there, and now the Romans collecting all the that said that they're messiahs, and they ended up taking him. And how all the community was trying to rally around Clarence to keep them from taking him, but eventually they took him. And then you had that scene with Barabbas as well. But again, you see him being set up in a different way, but yet he's still being captured. All right, so don't want to get ahead of you. So I just thought I'd add that to it.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Because like we were saying, like this storyline is following the narrative of the Bible. So it's following the narrative of the Bible from a perspective of someone outside the primary characters in the Bible, right? So in this scene, like the part that we're talking about, family, like when Clarence is betrayed, he's eventually betrayed, and then he's captured by the Romans. And this is what you see on the screen. This is when he was captured. And during this time in the film, this is a little bit before the real Messiah is getting ready to get crucified. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why we mentioned, like, you see a scene with the Last Supper, and I see the Last Supper of Passover, and where Judas is identified. Like, that's why that's going on. So this is right before the Messiah is getting ready to be crucified. Clarence is actually going through this process beforehand. So he's right here. He's before the I'll say the magistrate, the Roman magistrate, and he's asking him, and Clarence he's pleading. He's like he confesses. He's like, man, I was just tricking these people. I wouldn't, I'm not the Messiah. I don't have any power, right? And then of course,
real quick, just so that way we get that point too. Because remember, before he came out, he met with them in private, and he asked them that, hey, all you have to do is tell me where he is. We know you're not the Messiah,
right?
Because remember, Clarence told him, look, I'm not him. I don't do any powers. I don't have no powers. Right. He's like, look, everyone knows that you're not, as far as the government. He said, we just want the real guy. We want the real deal.
Right.
So just tell us where he is, and we'll go get him. We'll let you go. So because he refused, then he had to go through this test here to show that he's not the Messiah. And he was trying his hardest. And that's what he confessed to everyone, saying, look, I'm not the Messiah. This was all a hustle. I didn't want to do this. I just I just want to make money. So, hey guys, stop believing. I am not the Messiah.
Yep. And then of course, like Pastor Kelly was saying, it's kind of like this interaction between him and this general, or this representative of Rome. And Clarence, he's making that plea. And of course, the Roman general flips it on him. He's like, oh, so you're not the Messiah. It's like, but you just admitted to scamming and scheming and doing all this other stuff. It's like, oh, well, you got to be put to death anyway. So, but then at some point he was like, he was going to have them see that he wasn't the Messiah, and to prove it, he had I guess you would call like a water. It almost looked
pool, like a little pool,
like a swimming pool.
Yeah,
and he was going to have Clarence walk. He's like, it's like, if you're the Messiah, just walk across the water. So he stood on one side, Clarence on the other side, and Clarence couldn't swim. So to him, it was a death sentence. He was like, I can't swim. He was like, well, you're just gonna be dead, And so so he's there, and the crowd that's been following him is around him, and this is when he gets his visit from the Most High, because the Roman general, he turns to the crowd. He's like, he turns to the crowd. He's like, well, this is this is so that you can see that you're using his words, right? That your God's not real, it's fake, and that there is no Messiah, and that you all don't shouldn't believe. And then he tells Clarence to walk, and so Clarence, he can't swim, so he takes his first step into the swimming pool, and guess what? He starts walking on water.
And remember, he was saying, "It's not me. I'm
Right.
not doing this." He's like,
Right.
and remember the cloud, the light came down from heaven.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was
Yep.
like, it was almost like, basically in a nutshell, since you want to say you depart,
Right.
you're gonna walk it out. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Kind of like when I hear about the we, and I know this is another angle, but how we hear, well, we didn't kill Jesus. You know what I mean? And
Right.
they trying to make that into an anti-Semitic thing when you say such and such killed Jesus. So it's like, okay, you want the name, but you don't want everything that comes with it, including the blame.
Mm.
So it's like, you want to be portrayed in one way, but in taking something that don't belong to you, but you don't want all the reputation that come with it.
Right.
So that's what made me kind of think about that part. So it's like, it was like, now he's being pushed forward. Now he's walking. His first step, he looked like, this is not me. I'm not doing this.
Yep.
This not me. And he was being pushed along. You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
he was like, I can't swim. And and what was interesting, as he got towards, I guess, the other side, got closer there, is what Pilate said to him. He said, I wasn't going to let you drown. I would have pulled you out the pool.
Yep. And also funny that because I was there with my wife, and I was like, because I thought that the Roman general was setting him up. Like, I thought there was some glass, like a glass surface, like right up underneath the water that he was walking on. And but then he was like, then he turned to his soldiers, he was like, get him. And so the soldiers jump in the run into the pool, like they expect to run on the water, but they just fall right in. Like they go right into the pool. They sink. So anyway, I thought it was a kind of a nice touch that they did. And then, of course, like to Pastor Kelly's point, it was like, at that point, he had to get put to death. And this is when you see him, he has the cross. They're whipping him as he's getting ready to be crucified. And this is that scene. Just kind of go back just a little bit. This is that scene that we were talking about as far as Passover. There is a scene of Passover, and this is where Judas is revealed in the movie. So
yeah,
but yeah, so he's getting ready to get crucified. As he's walking down the street, you can tell he's been beaten, and his friends are trying to help him out, but he's shooing them away. Some of his friends are even willing to fight for him, but he's like, no, he's like, let me take this one for the team. And so then he goes up and he gets the nails in his hands and all that stuff, and gets raised on the cross. And one of the things, Pastor Kelly, that kind of resonated with me was when they raised him up on the cross. And you actually had this in one of your movies. We were just talking about this not too long ago.
Yeah,
about how you portrayed, like, during the transatlantic slave trade, when they would burn our brothers and sisters alive, and they would do it at like these parties, like they would have like a picnic type of thing, like a lynching, where the whites would gather around the black man that's getting ready to get hanged and lynched and beaten and burned, and they would be eating and taking pictures and all this other stuff. And what Pastor Kelly did was, I thought this was very creative. He took that scene and then reversed it and let you see that scene from the perspective of the person that was getting ready to be burned. Like the person that's up high looking down low, looking at everyone else have fun at their death, was something to behold. I thought that was a powerful scene. And this one didn't necessarily pull that idea like 100%, but what they did was that it's like they fixated the camera on the cross, so that when they raised it up and as it shook, the camera shook with the cross.
Yeah.
So it almost from that perspective, it almost felt as though that the audience was up there with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like every time he moved, the wood kind of shuddered. That sort of thing. Like when they pierced, they had to put him to death by sticking him on the side. They stuck him on the side, and so he winched at that, and you could see the camera would shake, as he would shake on that cross. So I thought,
what I liked what they did. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was it. That's all I had. Cause
what I like too, how the cinematography, how they captured it. They had you focusing on him, but then when after that portion, like you pointed out, they began to give you more of a larger view of all who was being crucified, and it was like a whole group of messiahs, people that were saying that they were messiahs, including in the center of it was the white Messiah.
Right.
And then that's where that white Messiah was like cursing and everything. Like, hey, I'm not the Messiah. Hey, I just, and I think he alluded almost to the Caesar Borgia. He's like, hey, they just put me up here. And he was just going off saying, hey, I'm not the Messiah, and I thought that was I thought that was good in terms of from the visual, just like what Christ warned that there'll be people saying that they're Messiah. And
Right.
so by them having not just Clarence up there and that white character, whatever the guy named from the movie that you pointed
Dr.
out for us, the
Strange.
Avengers. Yeah. They had others that was up there too, not just those two. It looked like they had at least 7 or 8 people up there. And family, if you study the period of the Maccabees, you'll see that there were people that was proclaiming to be the Messiah even before Christ. So I thought that was the way they did that is still kind of lined up with when Christ said that there would be false Christ, false prophets that's going to say that they are the Messiah and say, believe them not.
Yep. And it was like they put them all to death, and like I said, Fanny, you have to keep in mind. So in the film at this point in time, as the biblical narrative is moving forward. So like I said, this is just before the Messiah is getting ready to be crucified, right? Clarence is, like I said, before the Messiah is getting ready to be crucified, Clarence is being crucified. That's how the storyline of this movie is taking place. And so Clarence, he gets crucified, he dies, they wrap him up, they put him in the cave, kind of like the Messiah, and you see the mills, what do you call it, Pascal? Is a millstone in front? Yeah, that round millstone. But then you see somebody walking up to this millstone, and he puts out his hand, and he breaks the stone, and then he's going in, and then he's putting his hand over the dead corpse of Clarence, and of course he takes the I guess the burial garment off his face, and he says, "Rise, Clarence, rise." And it turns out that it's the Messiah, the real Messiah. And then of course Clarence wakes up, and he's like, what's going on? And he's like, because you have believed in the Heavenly Father and you believed in me, that I forgot the I'm kind of just paraphrasing, family.
Yeah, well, remember what he said. He pointed back to when he gave up all his money to help those people, to free those slaves. He said, by you doing that, and then that let me know that you weren't selfish. He basically, in a nutshell, he started demonstrating that he's willing to lay down his life for other people, not be selfish. And then with that, that's what you saw Clarence confess, saying that he believed.
Right. Yep.
And repented. Yeah.
Yep. So he repented. He came full circle. So at the end of the movie, he laid down his life for his friends, and at the end of the movie, he actually believed. At the end of the movie, he didn't want to give up the real Messiah, so he actually told the Roman general that he would die before he would give up the real Messiah. So he was willing
Yeah.
to die for the belief, for his faith in Yahusha. And then, like Pastor Kelly was saying that, this is right before the Messiah is getting ready to be crucified himself. He's raising up Clarence, right? And then I think this is when the movie ends, right? It's when he gets raised up.
Yeah, we get raised up.
He gets raised.
And so,
yep.
And just to Cuz's point, and I want to say this to everyone, Jay-Z did not write the movie. I just want to reiterate that he did not write the movie. He just put the money there. He just funded it. He did not write the movie. Go ahead, Cuz. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, all the movies, the movie industry, when you look at MGM, was it Paramount? Oh man, what's the one with Fox, Disney, like all those movie theaters, movie studios that you can think of, all of them, fam, Esau ran every last one of them. So that's why I say that, if you're making a big deal of like who's funding it, you might as well not see any movies, like at all. You might as well not even watch TV. What do you think the whole thing with the what's the programming of TV comes from, right? So anyway, but like I said, you can
take it a step further, because they might as well don't even read their Bibles, because who manufactured those Bibles?
Right.
We didn't write this KJV translation.
Right.
And matter of fact, if you study, I can't remember which book company, but they produce the NIV Bible, and they sell the Devil Bible, the Satanic Bible. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, family. We understand your concerns, but we have to make sure we be careful. Like one of the things that I remember, like the old Holiness Church, my grandmother, as far as her sisters and all of them, I mean, many of them were part of this Holiness Church, and they made it so that way they said you better not even think about going to movies, because if you go to a movie theater and you sit in that chair, you sit in the seat of scorn, all these different things. But Christ says something in the scriptures when he got accused. He went to go get him something to eat, right? He's going to get him something to eat, family. And while he's getting him something to eat, publicans and sinners coming in. To me, it's almost like going to a restaurant and you're going to get you something to eat. Some people come in that has a contrary lifestyle, and then they came and sat down and started talking to Christ. And Christ got challenged, and Christ said to the people, the Israelites, the Pharisees that was challenging them, he said, guess what? I did not come for those that don't need a physician. And you know what, cuz you know how Christ dropped the mic on him? He said, I'm not even mad at you. I'm paraphrasing. He said, I'm not even going to be mad at you. Go learn what I just said. Go understand what I just said to you. And drop the mic on him.
Yeah.
So family, to my cousin point, I said all I had to say, no matter where we are, we have to be careful that not putting something out there that you can't adhere to yourself. Like our cell phones, the places of work. I know that, for example, I worked for AT&T for over 10 years. I know that the higher ups didn't believe in the Most High, didn't believe in Christ at all. Many of them were atheists, and many of them were into some crazy stuff. But that didn't deter me from making the money for my household. So that's why you have to just use wisdom. The Most High allowed Daniel to grow up in that to come up in that Babylonian system. And what did he do? He used that for the good of the people. And that's all we're saying here. So just be careful that we don't get caught up in the thing of who, like you said, cuz who put the money behind it. Because I can tell you some of the old sources that Benaiah has been pulling on his channel, and I pull on my channel as well. Do you think those people believe in the Messiah? Matter of fact, many of they put us into was locking us up and everything. doing all kinds of crazy stuff to us. So we just have to be careful in how we approach that. So that's why I'm just saying, if go just to have the conversation, and you could use that as a tool to witness to others. And to me, it was about time we saw a movie about us. And it you didn't have to turn your head because there was sex scenes that was in it. You didn't have to cover your ears because it was filled with curse words and all those different things. It's like now you could actually go and you see how it was accurately being depicted, and you saw Christ. You didn't, as far as you saw the Messiah, you saw the disciples, you even saw John the Baptist. None of them compromised for Clarence. And that's one of the things I want to point out, cuz.
Yeah. Like I said, to reiterate for those who may have just joined, like the whole storyline of the movie was a person that was an atheist that ended up believing in the Most High, and that gave his life for his friends. So like I said, it's and I thought it was a powerful movie. But basically, kind of like, just to land back a little bit on what you were saying, Pastor Kelly, and this kind of goes back to something that I realized, come to a realization as well. It's like, we all have like different levels of self-righteousness. Like that's the term or the phrase that popped in my mind as you were describing what you was describing, Pastor Kelly. It was like, yeah, we all have our self-righteousness. I've had it too. I still have it too, right? I'm like, man, and I look at other people say, oh, they're not as righteous as me because I don't eat, because I don't eat pork. I don't do nothing, try to eat right, try to walk out the Most High's righteousness in my life as best as I can. But one of the things that got me, Pastor Kelly, because I remember one of the things, like, as we were kind of going into our feast days and we were trying to, set ourselves apart, because I saw someone, put in the chat, we got to be set apart, brothers. And it's like, I remember vividly, because it's like, we was trying to set ourselves apart and kind of leading up to the, then I had to go to work, right? And to your point, it's like, when you go to work, how many people that you work with do you think are unbelievers?
That's
how
right.
many people that you work with, was eating that pork bacon, right? Or that pork sausage and some grits in the morning time before they went and sat down across from you, shook your hand, saying, welcome, good morning. You know what I'm saying? How many people in the office do you think are of the same mindset? But that does not, to your point, Pastor Kelly, that does not prevent us from going to work and earning a paycheck and sitting down and calling and being on projects or teams with people that aren't necessarily Israelites, that aren't necessarily believers in the Most High. But we go along to get along. We work well. We don't even think twice about it, right? And then we jump in the car, and guess who built the car, right? I'm sure it wasn't an Israelite that built that car.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The people that built it, they probably weren't righteous, right? They weren't sanctifying all the different parts and the pieces and the gasoline. Where do you think the gasoline came from?
Yeah.
So it's like everything, family. It's like, and like I said, I came to this revelation where I thought I was setting myself apart. And I remember I was walking into a store. I forgot what I was walking into. I was walking to someplace, and it was like I was pushing on the door, and it's like a thought came to my mind, like, how many people touched this handle that was unclean before I touched it?
Yeah.
How many people? It's probably somebody that, maybe a woman was on her menstrual, or maybe somebody had touched a dead body or touched a dead thing. And here I am touching this thing. I was like, oh, Most High, man, I'm just going to be perpetually unclean. I went to the gas station and I had to put gas in my car, and I'm picking up the pump, and the thought came to my mind. It's like, man, how many people have touched this gas pump that was unclean? Man, how can I be set apart and righteous when I'm living in the daughter of Babylon, or I'm living in the place, in the land of my captivity? And you know what? Cause it was like, that's when I was like, unless we do what happened to our forefathers in Egypt and in Babylon, and that is when the Most High, when it was time for us to come out, and once we came out, that's when we had the laws, statutes, and commandments given to us. That's when the Most High kind of, he revealed himself to us and, to our forefathers, in Egypt, in the time of Egypt, it was like at Mount Sinai, in the mountain that was covered in smoke, right, and thunder, and that's where we were given the commandments and the instructions from the Most High. We came under the bond of the covenant. If you also look, when our forefathers came out of Babylon, and one of the first things that they did, they took out the scriptures and they started reading the scriptures, and they re-indoctrinated themselves into the Most High's commandment. And they could do it at that time because they were away from the land of their captivity. But it's really hard. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Don't get me wrong, fam. I'm not saying that you shouldn't pursue the commandments and the desires of the Most High. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when you're living in the land of your captivity and you have to get up and work, and you got to get up and pick your child up from daycare or the school, or just living every day, man, one of the revelations I came to, family, I was like, man, there ain't no way I'm going to be sanctified and holy like our brothers of old, because just interacting with my environment.
Like, you know what? Because to your point, and I used two examples. One of the examples is, remember when the disciples were out and they saw someone, they came to Christ. They said, hey, Christ, we saw someone out there who was casting out demons. They was doing X, Y, Z. And we told that person, stop what you're doing and come follow us. And that person refused. And Christ said to his own disciples, leave him alone. If you said that person is casting out demons, then he's on our side. And I'm paraphrasing, but sometimes we can get caught up in, like I said, and I just believe some of the influences from the Christian mindset that we were taught on how to keep separate from each other. And then when we look at another example, Nebuchadnezzar. He was running the Babylonian system. You know what I mean? He was not just being in Babylon, he was running the Babylonian system. Our brothers and sisters, our ancestors like Daniel and, his Hebrew friends, even though they were in that system, they still had to go to work, do all these things. They was in captivity, but they were still, they were able to still separate themselves from certain things. But but guess what? They couldn't stop going to, for example, the educational system. They still had to function in that area, but the key is he still purposed that, hey, I'm not going to eat meats. I'm not going to do these things that's going to defile myself. But at the same time, he still had to live in that system. And that's what we're saying, family. We're not telling you not to make the efforts to separate yourself. But sometimes if we're not careful, some of us within this community can take on some of the behavior we see in the church. And like I said, I grew up, I got all kinds of pastors and elders in my family. Now, we're not saying don't honor the law, statutes, and commandments. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying don't honor the feast days. We're not saying don't even strive to be set apart. But we are living in a place that the Most High understands that we are in this land of captivity. He understands our situation. He knows what we're going through. We strive for separation. We do the things that can separate us. But no matter what you do, you cannot be 100% taken away from the system unless we're in our own land that the Most High led us to and set up our own government again. Right? Think about it. You got a driver's license. All right. You still have to have a driver's license. Who is the facilitator of that? Right? You call the cops. Who's part of that system? If someone stole your car, you go to the doctor.
Look at the cash in your wallet.
Exactly. The money in your wallet have the face of our oppressors on it. And at one time, the $100 bill used to have the face of our ancestors on the field being enslaved. They had slaves on it at one time.
It's got pyramids and all kinds of symbols on it.
Yeah. So it's just, we're not saying that let your guard down. No, always be conscientious. Pray about what you have to. Just pray about it like we have to always do. Pray every day. Bless your house. But at the same time, family, We are under, we're in this land of captivity, just like the Israelites. I believe it was just as bad, if not worse, with them, because they were in our homeland, in the promised land, in captivity. That's like being held hostage in your own house. So let's just keep that in mind, that, no matter what we do, the Most High understands that we are in captivity, and it's laid out in the scriptures. So when we look at it from that perspective, family, with this movie, what we explained it to you, this movie is a great movie. It's a conversational piece, and the movie is focused on someone who had a hustle, who had a crazy life, living it a certain way, and in the end, he was brought over. And guess what? I think each and every one of us, most of us, can relate to that, because truth be told, to me, the message in that the Most High can use anyone He choose. Because I've been out in that world. I've been out there in those streets. I was out there hustling. You name it, I could go right down the line of some of that. I'm not bragging about it, but I thank the Most High for saving me. When I look at Him, how can others relate to it? Because many could say they're in that same boat. Wow, He turned. That's what happened in the end. You know what? Let me read on this and give a whole different perspective of what we're seeing within the scriptures. So I'll stop right there, but I just want to just reiterate that point, that if we had to summarize this whole movie, right, in the end, it was showing us that all of us, every last one of us, no matter how dire our situation may look, there's still hope for us, and we're living in an information age, but the key is we still have to believe. And even with Clarence, no matter how much knowledge he had, in the end, knowledge wasn't just having knowledge with no belief. That was not going to get him into the kingdom. He still had to believe.
Yeah. And I do want to just allow for some, for some insight, just in case, me and Pastor Kelly are missing something. So family, if you could hold your comments for a moment. If you could, if you're feeling some sort of way about, seeing a movie or this movie, if you don't mind, family, help your brother out. Can you put the commandment that someone would be breaking if they were to see this movie or watch this movie? Like the commandment that's in in Torah. And like let's just like I see brother Mattiyahu Israel, you had a couple of comments in there. Like if someone could just, either you, brother Mattiyahu, or any other folks that kind of believe differently, if you could please just put the commandment, not not anything else, but the actual commandment that's being broken by watching this movie. We'll kind of just sit back and wait. We'll give you a little bit of time to grab that and put that in the post.
And one point I want to make too, family, it's okay to have a disagreement, disagree with us. We're not telling you to agree with us, but let's be respectful with how we disagree. Because we can be very disrespectful with how we disagree.
Yeah, totally agree, Pastor Kelly. Because like we said, we know in the Hebrew community, we're not all of the same belief. You'll see a lot of variation, amongst the Israelites, and that's totally fine, family. I truly believe that we won't see that unification until the last days, when the Messiah comes back, or we get out of Babylon. But that's just me. But I am looking in the chat. I'm waiting for that commandment that would be broken if one were to watch this movie. So if you could please put the book in verse, I'd appreciate it. And just kind of watching the chat, because because like you were saying, Pastor Kelly, we're all in different places in our walk. We believe different things, and sometimes what we what we try to turn into a commandment are the things that are our personal beliefs. But I think, if we kind of just stick with the scriptures, I think we'll be okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, let me pull it up here. I was going to pull up what Paul said, and in the
Yep.
example, because I know I gave the example of it. When it says here, Romans chapter 14, starting at verse 1, it says, "Him that is weak in the faith receive ye, but not to doubtful disputations." Sometimes we can mean well, but we can have arguments and discussions, trying to tear down something, and we could lose people along the way. What Paul was saying, and as I pointed out earlier, this whole this what he was dealing with when he said one man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. And really what he's dealing with is the feast days. But here's the kicker. In verse 2, he says, "For one believeth that he may eat all things, another is weak, eateth herbs." So what they're referring to in verse 3, if he makes clarity, because he's not saying that you just go here and eat unclean foods. No, what he's saying is, right, this dealing with the feast days, if somebody that may not be as astute as you decide that they want to at that time be a vegetarian, don't argue with that person, because they're not doing anything wrong for choosing not to eat meats, because they still honoring the feast days. But don't force it on that person because you feel like everyone should eat meat during the Passover. But today we see it's in reverse, because we have brothers and sisters that are trying to make you feel bad because you're eating meats, clean foods, whether it's lamb or whatever, turkey. Well, the thing about chicken, right? They'll try to make you feel bad if you eat meat. So this is what Paul is saying, like, hey, we both have the same goals. We're both honoring, for example, the feast day, but because I'm not honoring it the way that you want me to honor it in terms of not eating meats, and you choose not to eat meats, then guess what? Let's not lose people over an argument we shouldn't even have. And that's exactly what Paul is saying there. And to your point, I just want to give that clarity, just so that way to bring your point home.
Yep. Thank you for that, Pastor Kelly. And yes, to Brother Matanyahu, yes, we're looking for Torah, and we're looking for the commandments in the book of the law. What book of the law, what law would someone break by watching this movie? So regarding Yahuwah, let's see, Leviticus chapter 24, verse 16. Let's pull that up, family. Let's pull it up. Hang on.
Yeah, I was just going to go to that too.
So we'll pull it up.
Come on, family. All right. And this is why I say context is everything. And I'll read it because as you pull it up,
Okay.
it says, "He that blasphemeth the name of the Lord, Yahweh, he shall surely be put to death. And all the congregation," and we see congregation, the Hebrew word you see there is idath, which means witnesses, "shall certainly stone him, as well as the stranger, as he that is born in the land, when he blasphemeth the name of Yahweh shall be put to death." Now, family, let me make sure you guys understand this, because I know that word name, many gets confused about that word name, right? That word name means reputation, right? It could be the literal name for its character, the literal name, but it can also be the reputation behind the name. So blasphemy means profane. So you're saying that going to a movie, right, that's about someone who was a sinner, a hustler, and everything, who turned his life around in the end. They didn't do anything to discredit the Messiah, right? That is blasphemy of going there to see that. You know, I'm sure you probably watch football games or some type of sports. Is that blasphemy? See, this is where we have to look at the scriptures from the full perspective. Because if that's the case, you know, don't drive your car, don't go outside your house. Matter of fact, uh, who is your loan? Who is your house financed through? What bank? So that scripture is completely out of context. And what is the full context of that scripture? What was that? What were they doing? Don't just cherry pick scriptures. What was the full context of that scripture? So it says that this Israelitish woman, if we look at verse 11, blasphemy the name. So they were going out purposely, right? Going against the Most High. They was going out here. Read the whole context. See, I don't want to just see cherry pick scriptures. I want to know the whole context behind it. So let's go ahead and just look at the whole context of it, starting at when we go at verse 10. Let's go down to verse 10, right? So this person is literally going out and doing everything against the things of the Most High. So is going out to, as Benaya pointed out, watching a movie that in the end, that's still promoting Christ, but showing you the life of a hustler who turned their life around. From the angle of a hustler, how is that blasphemy? Was Christ in sin because he was sitting at the table with sinners? Wherever he was, apparently this was a place where, others came and eat, and these sinners saw him sitting there and came and sat down with him. So this scripture that you pointed out in Leviticus chapter 24 is not what you're trying to put a square peg into a circle. It doesn't match.
Yeah.
So it said this woman's son, excuse me, I said her, but the woman's son was the one that was out there blasphemy and going against the reputation of the Most High. You was going to say something, cuz? I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say it's a bit of a reach on this one, family. I mean, trying to just be objective here. Yeah, it's a bit of a reach. How do you think, family, in the chat? Let's get some comments in the chat. Do you think? I see a Romans. Yeah, we're talking about Torah, so we're talking about the commandments. In the book.
But if I were to, while you're looking at up, I'll go to another scripture. They said Romans 14 and 16, right? Because Paul taught out of Torah, right? Right? He said, let not then your good be evil spoken of. That's what it starts off with. In other words, this is making sure that you be conscientious of what you do and how you do it. It says, for the kingdom of God is not meat and drink, but righteousness and peace and joy in the Holy Spirit. So how is it that going to watch a movie, because technically, what is the criteria about letting your good be spoken of in an evil manner? Because we have people that's going to say things no matter what. Then it says, let not then your good. This is still tying into the beginning of the chapter. So what is the good being spoken of in an evil way? It's how you're handling yourself. Here it is arguing about something that we shouldn't be arguing about. And at that time, there was arguing about whether or not somebody choose not to eat meat during the Passover. So again, that's why the scriptures also tells us in Proverbs, be careful of arguing with a fool. And I'm paraphrasing, that is going to end up looking like two fools. So I'm going to the scriptures. Every scripture that you put up, the Matith Yahoo, those are not scriptures in the proper context. So I saw two scriptures. Let's go to Leviticus 11. Let me pull up the other one. Leviticus, what's that? Leviticus 11:45. I'll let you go ahead and jump in, because while I'm going to Leviticus 11:45.
Yeah, the other one was Deuteronomy. And thank you, brother Madiyahu. Not picking on you anything like that, but I just want to see, you know, how we're applying the scriptures, right? And I think it's a good discussion to have amongst Mishpachah, so that you can see, you know, when you know, you have our brothers and sisters saying, you know, don't watch this movie, right? Why they're saying don't watch this movie, right? And part of Brother Madiyahu's reason for not watching the movie is because of Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 17, where it says, "You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yahuwah," right? And it says, "in his testimonies and his statutes, and he commandeth this day, and thou shalt doeth that which is right and good in the sight of Yahuwah." So I'm assuming that this is referring to the commandments that he just referred to in verse 17. Then it says, "that it may be well with thee, and that thou mayest go in and possess the land, the good land, which Yahuwah sware unto the fathers." So this is as Israel was getting ready to go into the land, the Most High is giving them some rules of the road, so to speak, in order for them to be able to dwell in the land, because they got to abide by the rules in order to dwell in the land peacefully, or the land's going to spew them out. So the question is, can we apply these two scriptures to watching movies? So what do you think, family? Can we apply this scripture to? Does this apply to the watching of the movie? Is this what this is talking about? I know they didn't have movies.
I don't see it. I don't see it. Because if you could pull up after you pull that one up, because he used Leviticus 11:44 or 11:45 rather.
Okay.
You know, that is dealing with what you eat.
Okay, it says, I'll start at 44. It says, "For I am Yahuwah, you shall therefore sanctify yourselves, and you shall be holy, for I am holy." And I'm assuming that this again is talking about the commandments, right? Following the Most High's commandments. And it says, "Neither shall you defile yourselves with any manner of creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth." So that's talking about eating creeping things.
Yeah, like snakes, you know what I mean?
Yep. And it says, "For I'm Yahuwah that brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be your Elohim. You shall, or be your Yah, you shall therefore be holy, for I am holy." So I'm thinking that this one is talking about food.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's talking about. That's exactly what it's referring to.
Okay. So any other scriptures, family? Just want to, like I said, just want to you know, make sure that we're considering all things that, you know, not above, you know, not being taught by the scriptures. So if you have any scriptures out there, any commandments that would be broken by watching a movie, just if you could put it in the chat, family. So thank you, brother Madiyahu. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's good for all of us to see that and see how what we're thinking when we say certain things. So any other scriptures, family? We'll give it a moment. And thank you, Pastor Kelly, for being patient. I know
I'm good. I'm off tomorrow anyway, so.
Oh. It's funny, family. If you all don't know, I'm in Georgia in the States, and anytime they have you know, a threat of a single snowflake, they start canceling schools. And sure enough, you know, that there was supposedly a forecast of a snowflake in Georgia, so they started canceling schools. So my kid's gonna be out tomorrow, which means I'll probably Most High willing work from home tomorrow, so we'll see. But yeah, it's been a blessing, man, hanging out with Mr. Cobb, man. Like I said, the purpose of making this video, family, was just to apologize, first of all, because I like I said, I had some preconceived notions, going into watching this film, and based off of those lyrics that I thought was in the movie, and it turned out that those lyrics from Lil Wayne was actually not part of the movie. It wasn't in the movie. And then the other revelation that I discovered was the whole movie was a lesson. It was a fictional lesson about believing in the Most High. The whole movie was a fictional tale that was based off of the narration in the Bible story, but it was about someone that didn't believe in the Most High, that ended up believing in the Most High so much so that he was willing to die for it at the end of the movie, and he actually did. And then he was given life at the end of the movie. So with all that being said, I'm looking for the scripture, the verse, the commandment that one would break if they were to watch this movie. So thankfully we did get a couple of scriptures, but like I said, family, if you come up with some other, because sometimes it's tough being put on the spot, because I've done that before, where maybe you get home and you get into that quiet place and you can think like, you know what, I forgot this scripture and that scripture. So if after the fact you've come across some scriptures that come to mind, that's Torah, please put it in the chat or the comments, and Most High willing, we'll take a look at them as you can. I don't really spend a whole lot of time in the comments, because I'm really off to doing more projects and stuff like that. But definitely don't let that deter you from dropping some comments in the chat, as far as like Torah commandments that you think that we would be broken by watching this film that was a lesson about believing in the Most High.
And because also read your disclaimer again about the songs, just you forgot to repeat it again.
Yeah. So the song, that it was a Lil Wayne song that was played during the trailer of the film. That song is not in the movie. That song is not in the movie. So just to let you know. And because that, I was, I had to raise my hand too, because I was part of the camp, and I saw the lyrics of that song. It's like, why is this guy's, calling himself, the Most High and stuff like that. I was like, man, I'm definitely not watching this thing. But then, it's not in the movie. And then you also see how what they're doing is that they're in the movie, they're showing someone that is an atheist, that has a perspective of an atheist. So before he's even brought into the faith, they're showing him where he is at that time. And then, of course, like I said before, he becomes a believer at the end of the movie. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, hopefully this, hopefully, for those that were interested in it, hopefully this will, give you some insight. Again, I do echo the sentiments of our brothers and sisters in the chat. Pray about everything, because definitely if you're someone that's easily confused, or I would say don't watch the movie. But to
one
me,
last question, cuz before you wrap it up too.
Go ahead.
Can you explain to the people whether or not if the Book of Clarence is actually a book, a biblical book?
No.
So I just thought got to cover all the bases.
No, it's not a biblical book. Like I said, it's a fictitious story that follows the biblical narrative. And again, it's about someone that's not a believer. He's an atheist, and that he ends up becoming a believer at the end of the movie, and gives his life for the Most High. So that's it. So anyway, if you're interested, check it out. If not, don't check it out. But just wanted to provide that update for you, because it was a revelation to me when I actually watched it. I was like, man, this thing is far from what people are saying it is. So any last minute comments, Pastor Kelly? And thank you for your for participating, Pastor Kelly. It's always a blessing to have you on and share your your wisdom and insight.
My only last comment that I'd like to make, just reiterate the point that, you know, the overall narrative in the end, my take of the movie is, no matter what path that you may be on, or whatever your past may look like, you know, there's always hope. As long as you have life in your body, there's always hope for you to turn around. And for me, that was the overall message in the movie, uh, that no matter where you are, no matter even the approach of what you thought, how your life was going to be based upon the circumstances that you grew up in, you know, that it doesn't have to end that way. No matter how your life may have started, it doesn't have to end that way. And I'll just say real quick, I am a son of a pimp and a underage girl. You know, my mother had me when she was pregnant with me when she was 16 and had me just when she turned 17. And my father was a pimp. And so, and I grew up in some of the roughest areas. So, coming up that way, and if the Most High can use me and take me from that uh, area and the things that I've witnessed and the things I indulged in, you know, if he could do it for me, he could do it for you. And I believe that was the overall message, that no matter uh, where you are and how your life started, it does not have to end that way. Just like the thief up on the cross, he still had hope because he got his life right, even up on that cross. I turn it over to you, Cuz.
No, I think that was eloquently communicated, Cuz. And with that, I think we'll just end on that. No outro, no nothing. But just say thank you, family. Thank you for all those who have dialed in. You know, most high willing, you know, we'll be dropping a couple of videos here in the near future. And yeah, just enjoy the rest of your evening. Love your family and take care, and shalom.